The balloons are the kind that squeak when you touch them, metallic. Over-smiling, tied in bunches to chairbacks and picture frames. The living room smells like buttercream and perfume, like candles and someone's too strong cologne. Music low in the background, chatter over it, a scatter of laughter that rises and falls as cousins arrive. As neighbors peek in with casserole dishes and store-bought desserts, as my aunt sweeps past the entryway, all bracelets and opinions. It's my birthday. I keep reminding myself of that as I take coats, pile gifts on the credenza, and smooth the table runner I ironed this morning. I paid the deposit on the cake, strung the fairy lights last night, tie bows on the napkins because my mother said presentation matters, and then disappeared for the afternoon. I set the extra chairs, I printed little place cards. Even moved the coffee table closer to the sofa because my father likes to rest his feet. It's my birthday. My name is stuck in glitter letters above the mantel, slightly crooked because the tape wouldn't hold. Everyone tells me the room looks beautiful. Everyone says I really know how to throw something together. They say it the way people say. You're so good at blending into the background while making us comfortable. I breathe in, out, smile. Look who's here. My mother sings, sweeping to the door like a hostess in a hotel lobby. Come in. Shoes off. No, not you. Harold, you're fine. My brother enters with his girlfriend, their arms looped, a bright gift bag swinging in her free hand. It rustles ominously with tissue paper. My mother kisses his cheek and beams like the sun broke just for him. She doesn't look at me. Happy birthday, my brother says, already glancing past me toward the kitchen island where the appetizers sit. He sets the bag on the credenza, not near the small pile with my name, but at the edge, next to the houseplant, as if the bag belongs to the room, not to me. Where's the good cheese? I point, and he is gone. Guests keep arriving, cousins with toddlers, an uncle with a booming voice, neighbors who happen to be walking by. They float through the rooms as if the house is a river and they are driftwood, catching against tables, releasing, drifting again. I loop the room with plates of crostini and cherry tomatoes skewered with mozzarella. I refill napkins. I light candles on the buffet. I tuck a strand of hair behind my ear and pretend my hands aren't shaking from balancing logistics with expectation. It is my birthday, I repeat, and this will be a nice evening. I will not clock who hugs whom and how long. I will not tally how many times I am asked to fetch more ice. I will not measure love in decibels. Shall we do gifts before dinner? My aunt calls, bracelets chiming. Kids are getting restless. Perfect, my mother says, clapping her hands. Everyone gather in the living room, Harold feet off the ottoman. Someone turns the music down. People sit. The room rearranges itself into a semicircle around the coffee table, where a tower of wrapped things sits like a cheerful little mountain. I slip into a chair at the edge of the circle and fold my hands in my lap. All right, my mother says, taking command as if she were the one born today. We're going to keep things moving. There's only so much daylight and we still have dinner. She glances at me for a moment, just long enough to say, smile, and then back to the room. Now, first this is for Mia. Mia is my cousin's daughter. She is 8, missing her 2 front teeth and adorable. She skips to the pile, takes a gift that is not wrapped in the color I chose for tonight, and squeals when it's a glitter unicorn creation kit. The room erupts. People lean forward to coo. My aunt dabs at her eye and mutters something about time flying. Mia's mother looks at me and says, "We should have let you have a childhood like this," and laughs because she thinks she's teasing me next. My mother says, flipping a tag. "For Josho, look at that, a jersey. Hold it up, dear." Josh is 12 and the jersey is from my father, who stands to clap his son on the shoulder. "That's my boy," he crows. I unclench my jaw. It is my birthday, I think. This is fine. Kids first, then it's my brother. The bag his girlfriend set down earlier turns out to be for him, for my parents. A watch. Not just a watch that shines in a way only expensive things know how to shine. He removes it from the box as if he's practiced this scene. He has the grateful grin, the little tilt of the head, the "oh, you shouldn't have, but I'm so glad you did" cadence. I turn again. My mother says, breathless, like a game show host on a streak. For Claire's spa voucher. You deserve it. Hugs. Photos. My aunt. Her turn again. A Bluetooth speaker for Uncle Harold. A baby blanket for the neighbor who is expecting soon. My father produces a pair of tickets to a play my mother's friend has wanted to see since it opened, and she squeals like her birthday suddenly came due. I watch the pile shrink. Someone hands me a plastic cup of Prosecco. Someone says, "You must be so happy." Someone asks where I got the velvet ribbon on the centerpiece. I answer politely. I refill the vegetable platter when it runs low. The gifts go on. When people look at me, they look at my handiwork, the bows, the napkins, the charcuterie board fanned just so. They do not look at my empty hands. My lap holds only the napkin I took at the start, folded into a smaller and smaller square. Now, this one is for "My mother sings," and I hear my name and I sit up, a small current fluttering under my ribs finally. Her hand dips toward a small box near the bottom. She pauses. "Actually," she says brightly, "let's do this one first. It's heavier." She pulls out a rectangle in forest paper and hands it to the neighbor boy who mows our lawn. "We appreciate you," she says. The room nods approval. I press my napkins smaller. Another gift. Another one. Another, each tag flipped with ceremony, each name called with delight. My name lands like a feather somewhere between them, but whenever it comes near, the hand moves past to someone else, to something else more urgent, more fun. "Hold that thought," my mother says at one point. "We'll circle back." My father leans back on the sofa with the posture of a man who knows the room arranges itself to please him. My brother taps his new watch. "Nice, right?" he says to no one and everyone. The girlfriend laughs. It's an easy sound, practiced like a chorus. The pile lowers until the coffee table is mostly clear, except for a few stragglers, wrinkled tissue paper, a ribbon that wound itself into a snake, a small box turned sideways. My name has not been called. Not once. I know what humiliation feels like. Kits molten, then freezing, then scalding again. It leaves no outward marks. It makes a carnival of your insides. I swallow past it and smile so my cheek muscles don't forget their lines. "Isn't this lovely?" my aunt says. "Everybody is so thoughtful." "Not everyone," my brother mutters, just loud enough, and his girlfriend's head tips to laugh again. And Uncle says, "Where's the cake?" as if that might staunch the moment's bleeding. My mother's eyes flick to my hands and away. "Well," she says quick and crisp, "not everyone needs a fuss every time. We're not, what's the word, sentimental?" She looks at me with the gauzy righteousness of someone who wraps a knife in silk. You understand? The room stares anywhere but my face. The color rushes up my neck and into my scalp. Hot under the fairy lights, I bought the cake. I pick the flavor everyone votes for. I know where the extra forks are and who has a dietary restriction and which chair squeaks. And none of that adds up to a gift when the room makes its math. I take my empty glass to the kitchen to rinse what isn't there. In the doorway, my father says to my mother, not bothering to lower his voice, "We didn't budget for extravagance. She's practical." My mother clucks, satisfied to be thought frugal. "Besides," she says, "not everyone deserves gifts." She's very capable, the opposite of precious, the twin of invisible. The kitchen smells like lemon soap. The sink runs. I watch water spin into the drain, a tiny hurricane, and wish for a second I were the kind of person who knew how to throw a plate against tile and make the sound stand in for everything I want to say. Instead, I dry the glass. I wipe the counter. I count in, 2, 3, out. 2, 3. I am capable, I think. I am a person who returns to a room with a face still on. When I step back into the living room, people are already saying cake, cake. Relief moves through them like a breeze. The ritual will reset the awkwardness. Let's sing first. My mother trills. Lights off. Someone kills the switch and the room inhales together. The only glow is the candles on the cake. 15 of them because more looks tacky and we'll pretend. My mother said at the bakery, as if lying about me were an aesthetic choice. The flame makes everyone lovely, makes shadows softer. They begin to sing. Happy birthday to you. The song bathes the room in something like kindness, or at least a rehearsal of it. By the second line, voices are stronger. By the third, someone harmonizes. I look at the flicker and decide I will make a wish so sharp it cuts through anything. I will wish myself into the kind of person who does not look for her name on tags. I will wish myself a back so straight gravity forgets me. I will wish the doorbell rings. It rings hard, insisting. People pause, mid-note, the harmony sags. My mother makes a face and flutters a hand. Ignore it, she says, but the bell rings again, a long press. The cake flickers. Someone laughs. Maybe it's a singing telegram, my aunt says, and people laugh because they cannot help themselves. "Okay, I'll get it," I say, because of course I will. I set the cake on the sideboard and slip through the bowed heads and rounded shoulders, through the tangle of knees and coffee tables, to the door. On the porch is a man in a brown jacket with a clipboard and a tired smile. Behind him, on the top step, sits a box-heavy-looking, taped tight, an old-fashioned string, cross-tying the lid like a parcel from another century. There's a wax seal pressed into one corner, the kind used by people who love ceremony. "Delivery," he says. "Needs a signature? For who?" I ask, though I already hope against every sensible thing that he will say my name. He checks the slip. "For you," he says, and says my name out loud, and for a second I swear the hallway tilts. I didn't. I begin. From. He starts, then stops. It just says, hand to recipient, confirm identification. He blinks. "Happy birthday," he adds, sincere, and I want to hug him because no one has said it like that yet. I sign. He tips 2 fingers at his cap, turns, and the sound of his boots fades into the lowing chorus of a neighborhood on a warm night. The box is heavier than it looks. I slide my hands under it and feel weight settle into the bones of my forearms, into the meat of my palms. It is not an empty gesture. It does not rattle. When I carry it inside, the song has fizzled into chatter. People have turned the lights back on. Someone is telling a story about parking tickets. Someone else is asking about the sauce for the chicken. My mother sees the box and tightens her mouth. My father glances with the wary curiosity of a man who hates surprises. My brother says, "Amazon, special delivery." My aunt says brightly, as if she organizes such moments for a living. She leans in to peer at the top. "Look, a seal. Quaint." There, on the lid, in black ink, is my name, not the family name, not the household name. Mine, written with a firmness you don't see in ballpoint. I set the box on the coffee table where the gifts had been displayed. On the spot where my absence was arranged a few minutes ago, the room draws closer without deciding to. People stand and tilt and hover near armrests and pretend they are not. Craning. "Who is it from?" My mother asks, light and lethal. The tag on the string is blank. Only my name. There is no return address on the taped sides. The wax seal is stamped with an emblem I don't recognize, an herb. A branch, and a letter that could be an initial or a flourish. "Should we?" my aunt says, rocking on her toes. "Open, open." After dinner, my mother says, quickly, the way you say later to a child clutching a shiny thing, "We have a schedule." "It's for me," I say, and I'm surprised at the sound of my own voice, quiet. Yes, but threaded through with something that holds. I tug. The string, it resists, then yields with a satisfying whisper. The nut falls away. The wax seal breaks. There's a soft crack like ice fracturing on a lake in March. I peel the tape back one seam at a time. The paper lifts like a held breath finally released. Inside is another box, narrow and deep, the kind meant for keeping something flat and important from bending. It smells faintly of cedar. The lid is smooth. There is no logo. It's only a smaller envelope resting on top, cream-colored, thick, as if it had a backbone. My name again, the same hand, the same deliberate pressure. Slide. My finger under the flap. Behind me, someone whispers, "She finally got something." And someone else says, "I wonder who remembered," and my mother says, too lightly, "Probably a coupon." And my father says, "Get on with it, because patience is not in." The family design, pull out a single sheet of paper from the envelope. The weight of it is wrong for trivial things. The edges are crisp. The print is not decorative. It looks like the kind of paper people sign and then alter their lives around. My eyes catch on a word, then another, then my own name again, pinned in a sentence that changes the way the floor feels under my feet. The room leans closer without moving. What is it? My brother demands, the word tipped, not with concern, but with possession, as if anything that happens here must be his to narrate. I don't answer yet. My hands shake, just once, and then steady themselves around the edges of the paper. I set the letter down, reach into the cedar-smelling box, and feel the cold, precise weight of something metal. Something with teeth. Something that is not given as decoration. I draw my hand back out. Keys, a bundle of them, attached to a small brass tag engraved with an address I know only by rumor and an embossed crest that matches the seal on the lid. "Keys," my aunt says, her voice doing a flip. "To what?" The room holds its breath so hard I can hear the clock over the fireplace. I look up, meet my mother's ice cool, measuring, and my father's already dark with the calculation. Of men who know they are not in command, then my brother's widening, hopeful, then suspicious. I place the keys gently on the table. On the exact rectangle where other people's gifts had been applauded, where my name had been skipped. "It's the last box," I say, my voice steady now, and I tap the letter with one finger, just once, and it's mine. The room tilts forward in a single shared motion. Mine, I repeat, softer, as I close my hand over the brass tag and feel the edges bite just enough to remind me I am awake. And then, because the letter's first full sentence is still ringing in my head, because the crest means more than they realize, because the line under my name begins with, "On this die lift my chin, ready to read. Childhood, when birthdays were for others, some people collect happy birthday memories like pearls on a necklace. Mine have always felt like stones in a pocket, dragging me down. When I was 6, my brother turned 8. He got a magician for his party, a man in a glitter cape who pulled coins out of ears and made silk scarves appear from nowhere. The living room swelled with laughter, frosting smeared faces, photographs framed with sparkles. 2 weeks later, on my birthday, my mother lit a single cupcake on the kitchen counter. No balloons, no candles waiting in the drawer. She kissed the top of my head and said, "Be grateful. Not everyone needs a big fuss." I remember staring at the flame until my eyes blurred, then blowing it out with a wish I was too young to put into words, "Notice me." But the wish floated upward like smoke and vanished. Growing up in the shadow as years passed, the pattern sharpened. My brother's birthdays meant hired halls, DJs, and friends filling the backyard. His gifts piled so high the ribbons knotted together like vines. He got bikes, video games, new sneakers. Mine, quiet dinners, sometimes even forgotten until I reminded them. My gifts were practical things: socks, a notebook, once even a vacuum cleaner. "Useful," my father said, patting my shoulder. "Better than junk." Useful. Always useful, never special. By high school, I stopped expecting anything. I smiled through family parties that looked more like excuses to invite neighbors my parents wanted to impress. The candles on my cake, when there was a cake, were stuck in haphazard, and the singing was half-hearted, as if they were performing a chore. The lesson of being invisible, There's a cruelty in being present but invisible. You exist enough to serve, to fetch, to tidy, but not enough to be celebrated. Every year etched that lesson deeper into me. I was the one who set the table, not the one they toasted. I was the organizer, not the guest of honor. I was the background music in their show. And the saddest part? I tried to earn it. I brought home grades that shimmered with A's. I won a regional art contest. I volunteered at the library and earned a community award. Every ribbon, every certificate, I presented like offerings. See, I matter. But my mother glanced and said, "Don't brag." My father shrugged. "Focus on things that pay." My brother snorted. "Nobody cares about that stuff." So I folded the certificates into drawers. I learned silence. The turning point. Choosing myself college gave me my first taste of air outside that suffocating house. I left with 2 suitcases, a small savings from working shifts, and no expectation of care packages or phone calls. And still, I thrived. No one noticed when I made the dean's list. No one cared when I worked 3 jobs to cover rent. But professors noticed. Friends noticed. People who weren't obligated by blood clapped for me, and I realized sometimes strangers can give you more family than family ever will. But birthdays, they remained raw. I never threw parties, never told people the date. I always worked late, hiding the sting under shifts and assignments. Because deep down, I still remembered the little girl who blew out a cupcake candle and begged the air to see her. The build-up to this birthday this year, though, was different. I had been working in secret, saving, building something of my own. And though I wasn't ready to tell anyone, I knew I wasn't the same invisible child anymore. When my parents insisted on hosting a birthday gathering, which I later realized meant me doing all the preparation, I almost said no, but part of me still whispered, maybe this time. Maybe they'll remember it's mine. I cleaned, I decorated. I set the table. I even picked a cake flavor everyone liked, not me, because that was the habit. Put them first, shrink yourself, hope they'd notice the empty space where love should have been. But I should have known better. Because when the gifts began, I wasn't surprised to be skipped. I wasn't surprised when my name was brushed aside. I wasn't even surprised when my mother said, "Not everyone deserves gifts." What surprised me was the box that arrived after. The last box, waiting. I can't explain why my hands shook when I touched it, why the wax seal felt heavier than its weight. Maybe because for once, something was undeniably mine. Not begged for, not excused away, not stolen by someone louder. It's just mine. The child inside me, the one with cupcake candles and invisible birthdays, leaned forward and whispered, "This is it? This is your turn." And as I looked at that box, I realized my entire life had been building to this moment. This was the year the story flipped. The party without me, the candles were still flickering from the half-sung. Happy birthday when the chatter resumed, swallowing me whole. The table brimmed with wrapping paper scraps, boughs tossed aside. Like afterthoughts, children clutched new toys. Adults compared gift receipts. My brother flexed his wrist so everyone could admire the expensive watch again. My aunt waved her spa voucher like a lottery win. And me, nothing in my lap, nothing in my hands. Nothing but the echo of my mother's words. Not everyone deserves gifts. I tried to steady my breathing to keep the smile plastered on, but inside, something cracked. The mockery cheer up, my brother called across the room, grinning with that cruel ease he'd perfected since childhood. Not your fault, nobody remembered. Laughter trickled around the circle. Not loud, not kind, that hollow laughter people use when they don't want to be caught siding with cruelty, but they also don't want to defend you. My cheeks burned. I lowered my eyes to the napkin I was shredding in my lap. "Besides," his girlfriend added, her voice sugary sweet, "you're always so practical. You don't need gifts, right? Exactly, my father said, as if she'd delivered some great wisdom. She's capable, she manages. Capable, practical words that meant we don't have to love you out loud. The pity I caught the look in one guest's eyes. Pity. Raw and heavy. A neighbor's wife leaned toward her husband and whispered, "It's her birthday, isn't it? Poor thing. Poor thing." The phrase sliced me deeper than mockery. Mockery at least made me part of the game. Pity made me nothing at all. I swallowed hard, blinking fast to keep tears from spilling. I would not cry here. Not in front of them. Not when they were waiting to see me break. He almost collapsed. The room spun with chatter. I stood to clear plates. Because if I was busy, maybe no one would notice my empty hands. I stacked dishes, scraped crumbs into the bin, forced myself to move calmly. But inside, humiliation coiled tighter and tighter. I thought of every year before, the magician for my brother, the lavish cakes for my cousins, the whispered excuses when my own candle count dwindled. And now, adulthood, and still the same, forgotten, skipped, invisible. Something inside me whispered, maybe they're right. Maybe I don't deserve anything. I gripped the dish so hard my knuckles turned white. My breath shook. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. I was about to shatter. The doorbell, ding-dong. The sound cut through the chatter like a blade. Heads turned, conversations froze mid-sentence. My mother frowned. At this hour? The bell rang again, louder this time, insistent. "I'll get it," I said quickly, needing air, needing any excuse to leave that suffocating room. I set the dishes down and walked to the door, my heart pounding, palms clammy. The delivery on the porch stood a delivery man in a brown jacket, clipboard in hand. At his feet, a heavy box wrapped in string, sealed with wax. "Delivery," he said, glancing at his slip. 4. He read the name. My name. My breath hitched. He looked up, smiling faintly. "Happy birthday." The words landed heavier than the box itself. No one had said them like that all night. Not sincerely, not to me. I signed, thanked him, and he walked away. The box was cold against my palms, weighty in a way that promised importance. The shock in the room when I carried it inside, the chatter dimmed. Eyes locked on me, on the box, on the wax seal glinting under the lights. "What's that?" my aunt asked, eyebrows raised. "Looks fancy," someone muttered. My mother's smile tightened. Probably a mistake. My father's jaw flexed. From who? No one answered. The tag had only one thing written, my name. The tension builds. I set the box down on the coffee table, right where every other gift had been placed, the same table that had stayed bare when it was my turn. The room seemed to lean in as one. Well, my brother demanded, "Aren't you going to open it?" "Yes, do open it," my aunt urged. We're all dying of curiosity. "Maybe after dinner," my mother cut in, her voice sharp, too quick. There's no rush. But for the first time that night, I felt a spark inside me. A flicker of defiance. "It's mine," I said softly. "I'll open it now." The room fell silent. The room holds its breath. The box sat heavy on the table. Wax seal cracked, string loose, its presence louder than the chatter it had silenced. Every eye was on me. For once, I wasn't invisible. I slipped my fingers under the lid and lifted. A soft scent of cedar drifted out. Inside lay a slim cream-colored envelope, and beneath it, a flat wooden case. The envelope bore only my name, written in the same deliberate, steady hand as on the tag. I slid it open. The letter, the paper inside was thick, official. My eyes scanned the first line, and my heart stuttered. "On this day, we entrust to you the property located at address, along with full ownership rights." My breath caught. My hands trembled. Property? Ownership. I flipped to the second page. Legal documents. Notarized with my name, bold at the top. Deed papers. I wasn't holding a trinket, a token, or a forgotten afterthought. I was holding the deed to a house. The revealed gasps rippled through the room. "What is it?" my aunt demanded, leaning closer. "It looks official," another whispered. My brother's voice broke through, sharp with disbelief. "No way. That's fake." I laid the papers flat on the table, letting the gold notary seal catch the light. "It's real," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. My father stiffened. My mother's face paled. "Who would give you something like that?" My mother asked, her tone a strange mix of anger and confusion. I didn't answer because I didn't know. The letter only said my name, nothing about the sender. But what mattered wasn't the who, it was the what. The keys. I reached into the wooden case beneath the papers and pulled out a heavy bundle of keys attached to a brass tag engraved with the address. They clinked in my hand, loud as thunder in the silent room. Real, tangible, mine. "This is a house," I said softly. "My house." The shockwaves, the silence broke like glass. My aunt's bracelets jingled as she grabbed for the letter. "Let me see," my father's voice thundered. "This is ridiculous. Who would bypass me? There must be a mistake." My brother stood, his face red. "Why would anyone give her a house? She doesn't deserve that." The words rang through the room, echoing the years of dismissals, the years of invisibility. But now they didn't pierce me. They bounced off the shield of reality in my hands, 'cause for the first time, I didn't need to prove I deserved anything. Had it. The public shift, the guests, who had watched me sit giftless all evening, now leaned closer, their whispers shifting from pity to awe. An entire house. Can you imagine? She must have done something right. For once, their eyes weren't filled with condescension or pity. They were filled with respect. And my family, the ones who had always drowned me in silence, were the ones shrinking now. The speech. I stood slowly, holding the papers in one hand, the keys in the other. My voice was calm, clear. You all saw it. On my birthday, I was the only one left without a gift. Not even a card. Not even a word. My own parents said I didn't deserve one. My mother flinched. My father shifted uncomfortably. But life has a way of revealing the truth. Tonight, while you gave me nothing, I received everything. And you can't take this away from me. I lifted the keys slightly, letting them catch the light. This box wasn't just a gift. It was proof. Proof that I was never invisible. Proof that while you laughed, mocked, and ignored me, someone saw me, and now the world will see me too. The room erupted, not with laughter, not with mockery, but with applause. Genuine, startled applause from guests who had no script for this moment but felt compelled to respond. The family's silence. My father's jaw worked, but no sound came out. My mother's fingers twisted in her lap. My brother's fists clenched at his sides, his expensive watch gleaming uselessly. They had nothing to say, nothing to argue, nothing to diminish, because the proof sat in front of them, undeniable. The transformation. I placed the papers carefully back into the box, slid the envelope on top, and closed the lid with a quiet finality. When I looked up again, I wasn't the background child anymore. It's the one holding the last box. And that changed everything. The applause that was mine for a moment, the room was frozen in shock. Then the applause began. Not from my parents, not from my brother, but from the guests. One by one, they started clapping. Slowly at first, hesitant, but then louder, stronger, until the sound filled the room. Neighbors, cousins, even the people who had pitied me earlier, they were now smiling, nodding, congratulating. It wasn't pity anymore. It was respect. For once, the applause belonged to me. The guests celebrate an entire property. My aunt gasped. "Do you know how rare that is? You're so lucky." Not lucky. Another corrected. Deserving. "She's worked hard. I've seen it." A neighbor leaned over, squeezing my hand. "I always knew you'd rise above. They can't ignore you anymore." Their words wrapped around me like warmth I had been denied all my life. And as I glanced at my family, I saw the contrast as clear as day, while the guests leaned toward me. My parents leaned back, pale, rigid, exposed. The family's excuses my mother was the first to break. "Well," she said quickly, her voice high and forced, "of course we knew something like this was coming. We just didn't want to spoil the surprise." A weak laugh followed. My father nodded, his voice booming in false confidence. "Yes, we didn't mention it because we wanted it to be dramatic. See, it worked." My brother scoffed, unable to hold his tongue. "You expect us to believe that? She doesn't deserve a house. She didn't earn it. It should have been mine." The room fell quiet at his words. The guests shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting between him and me. The confrontation I stood, my voice calm but carrying the weight of every silent birthday. "Before this one, no," I said. "You didn't forget because of a surprise. You forgot because you always forget. Because in your eyes, I was never worth the effort." My mother's lips parted, but no words came. I turned to my father. "You told me I didn't deserve gifts, that I was too capable, too practical to need them. But you were wrong. I deserved more than your neglect. And now everyone sees it." Finally, I faced my brother. His fists clenched, eyes blazing. "You've always mocked me. Take in what was mine, but this time you can't. Because this is in my name. My keys, my deed, my house." I held the bundle of keys up for emphasis. They glinted under the lights like a crown. "This is the gift you couldn't take from me. The one box none of you could touch." The silence of defeat the room was quiet, except for the faint clinking of my aunt's bracelets as she wrung her hands. My parents' faces were stiff masks, drained of color. My brother sat down heavily, his jaw locked. They had no defense, no excuses left that could erase the truth laid bare in front of everyone. And for the first time, I didn't crave their words. The new applause instead. I turned back to the guests, the people who had cheered when my family hadn't. "Thank you," I said softly, "for seeing me tonight, when the people who should have didn't." More applause. Genuine, warm, unforced. In that moment, I realized something powerful. I had been chasing their approval all my life, but I didn't need it, 'cause I had built my worth without them. So the walk away the night wound down after that. Guests left in clusters, murmuring congratulations, glancing with pity at my parents who still sat stiff and silent. I carried the box to my room, papers and keys safe inside, then returned only long enough to thank those leaving. When the last guest left, the house was quiet. My mother tried once more, her voice brittle. "You could share it, you know, with family." I looked at her for a long moment. Then I shook my head. "No," I said simply. "Family doesn't forget you on your birthday. Family doesn't call you undeserving. Family doesn't laugh while you sit with empty hands." I turned, my voice steady as steel. "You taught me I didn't matter. Tonight proved I do." And with that, I walked away. The final reflection later that night, I sat at my desk with the papers spread out before me. My fingers traced the embossed seal, the words declaring me the sole owner. I thought of the cupcake candle when I was 6, of the skipped birthdays, of the pitying stares, of the silence. And then I thought of tonight, the keys in my hand, the applause in my ears. The look on their faces, smiled. On my birthday, "They gave me nothing," I whispered. "But the last box gave me everything. They mocked me, ignored me, left me empty-handed on my own birthday. But when I unwrapped the last box, the truth came out and they were the ones left with nothing. Because sometimes the best gift is not what they give you, but what life saves for you alone. On my birthday, they left me empty-handed, but the last box gave me everything." If this story moved you, don't forget to hit the like button. Share it with your friends and tell me your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And make sure you subscribe to Toxic Bloodlines for more shocking stories of betrayal, neglect, and the sweetest revenge. Until next time, remember, sometimes the gift you need comes when you least expect it.